So, how many times have you promised yourself, this is the last time? The last time you'll check your phone before bed, maybe the last time you'll procrastinate on that important project, or the last time you'll stress eat that bag of chips. And how many times have you found yourself perhaps doing it again the very next day, feeling that familiar wave of guilt and frustration and that urge of that addictive craving? You might have told yourself to stop and you used your willpower, so why didn't it work? Well, for decades, we've been told willpower is the key. If you just try harder, resist more, and be more disciplined, you'll succeed. But there's a problem with this advice. It's based on a misunderstanding of how our brains actually work. So today we're going to explore the neuroscience of habit change. We'll look at why willpower fails, what's really happening in your brain when you form a habit, and most importantly, how you can finally break free from the cycles that hold you back without needing superhuman self-control. So the traditional story, it goes something like this. You have a rational brain and an impulsive brain, and your job is to strengthen the rational side until it overpowers the impulsive one. Willpower is the muscle that you need to exercise. And this popular idea, it had a scientific name known as ego depletion. It was the idea that willpower is a finite resource, like a tank of gas or like a battery that gets drained the more you use it. You start the day with a full charge, but after a day of resisting temptations and making decisions, you're depleted. So by 8 p.m., the battery is empty and you have no willpower left to resist that cookie. And this story became one of the most cited findings in psychology. It spawned hundreds of studies and countless articles. But there's a huge problem. In 2016, a massive study across 23 different laboratories with over 2,000 participants tried to reproduce the original findings on ego depletion. The result? The effect had essentially vanished. So a follow-up in 2021 was done, involving 36 labs, and they confirmed it. They found effectively no effect. So if willpower is a depleting resource, the evidence for it has all but collapsed. But here's the deeper problem. Even if willpower was a reliable source, it depends entirely on one specific part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex. This is the newest, most human part of your brain, responsible for rational planning and decision-making and conscious self-control. The problem is the prefrontal cortex is the first region to go offline when we're stressed or tired or anxious. It's the system that shuts down precisely when you need it most. This is why your rational 9 a.m. plan is out the window by around 3 p.m., right? It's not a character flaw, it's a design flaw. It's like using the wrong tool for the job. So now if willpower is not the answer, what is? So to find the solution, we first need to understand the problem, which is how habits actually form in the brain. And this process is called reward-based learning. So our brains, they evolved with one primary objective: to keep you alive. And it does this through a fundamental three-part process that neuroscientists call the habit loop. Okay, so first there's the trigger. This is any stimulus that initiates the behavior. It can be an external cue, like seeing your phone on the desk and seeing a notification on it, or walking past a coffee shop and catching some of that roasted aroma. But crucially, it can also be an internal cue, an emotional state like stress, boredom, anxiety, or loneliness. Second, there's the behavior. This is the action itself, reaching for your phone, opening a bag of chips, starting to worry. And third, there's the reward. This is what your brain gets from the behavior. And this is where it gets really interesting. A reward is not just a pleasurable feeling. Your brain considers relief from discomfort a reward. When you feel anxious and scrolling through Instagram, well, that numbs your anxiety. And your brain logs the information of, oh, anxiety trigger, scrolling behavior, relief, reward. And it stamps this experience with a do this again tag. And this tagging happens through the release of a neurotransmitter called dopamine. Dopamine is the brain's learning signal. It tells your basal ganglia, the ancient habit center deep in your brain, what patterns are worth remembering and automating. Then, as you repeat this loop, a shift happens. The behavior moved from the prefrontal cortex, your conscious thinking brain, down to the basal ganglia. And the behavior becomes automatic. You don't decide to reach for your phone when you're anxious. Your brain does it for you below the level of conscious awareness. And here's the kicker. Your brain doesn't distinguish between good and bad habits. It doesn't care if the reward is a life-saving food source, a hit of nicotine, or a satisfying ping from a new notification. A reward is a reward. This is why your brain can hijack you into a loop of doom scrolling, procrastination, or emotional eating just as easily as it can automate tying your shoes, right? So you have the conscious, rational part of your brain saying, hey, let's stop doing this, while the unconscious, powerful, automatic habit center is firing up the old routine before you even have a chance to think. So as a metaphor, it's kind of like trying to stop a freight train by standing in front of it. You might hold your ground for a little while, but the train is just too powerful and it never gets tired. So this is why willpower alone is an impossible strategy. Now, the good news is that we can work with the system instead of fighting it. Instead of forcing your prefrontal cortex to battle the basal ganglia, you can simply update the reward value that drives the habit in the first place. When the perceived reward drops, the behavior drops with it. Not because you forced it, but because your brain lost interest. This is the framework that I call the 3 gears. It's a method based on neuroscience and backed by clinical trials. Now, the first gear, this is about mapping your habit. Okay, so you can't change what you can't see. So the first step is simply to make the unconscious conscious. When you catch yourself in the habit loop, take a moment to observe without judgment. Ask yourself, what was the trigger? What was the feeling right before this happened? What did you do? What did you get? So that's the mapping. It's being a scientist of your own experience. And then in a few days of mapping, you'll start to see that many of your bad habits share a common trigger, some flavor of anxiety or uncertainty or discomfort. Next is the second gear. So this is about getting disenchanted. So this is where the real magic happens, okay? So once you see your habit loops clearly, the next step is to pay very close attention to the reward you're getting. Not what your brain promises you'll get, but what you actually get right now in real time. So this mechanism was discovered with a smoking cessation research at Brown University. So those people weren't told to quit, they were told to smoke, but to pay very, very close attention while they did it. And then one participant came back and described the experience with a phrase that captures this whole mechanism. He said, quote, "It smelled like stinky cheese and it tasted like chemicals." And then the other woman said simply, yuck. So this is disenchantment. Her brain wasn't being told cigarettes are bad. She already knew that. Her brain was getting updated reward information. By paying attention, she realized that the actual reward, the taste and smell, was not just unpleasant, but downright disgusting. So she let her brain experience that the reward just was not rewarding. So this works for any habit. Next time you've been scrolling for 20 minutes, pause and check in. Is your body more relaxed or more wired? What did you actually gain? Most people, when they honestly ask, discover the reward is surprisingly small. The habit doesn't really deliver what it promises. Now last is the third gear, finding the bigger, better offer. When you become disenchanted, the habit starts to lose its power. But nature abhors a vacuum. Your brain will need something to replace it. A bigger, better offer isn't a substitute like chewing gum instead of smoking or swapping from Instagram to Twitter. No. That's just the same trap. A truly bigger, better offer is something that gives you a deeper, more satisfying reward. For many people, that reward is curiosity. When a craving hits, instead of acting on it or fighting, you get curious. What does this urge feel like in my body? Is it in my chest? Is it in my throat? Is it hot or cold? What happens if I just watch it? All right, so this shift, moving from, oh no, here's that craving again, to, oh, interesting. What does this feel like right now? So that's the most powerful move that you can make, right? Because curiosity is intrinsically rewarding. It activates your brain's natural reward circuits. So you're not fighting a feeling, you're replacing a shallow, fleeting reward, like the anxiety relief from scrolling, with a genuine, satisfying reward, the experience of being present and aware. Now, let's see how this works for a real-world habit. Let's take emotional eating. So the first gear is to map your habit, right? Well, I'm not too hungry. I may be bored or stressed, and that trigger is a feeling of loneliness or discomfort. The behavior is eating ice cream or a bag of chips on the couch at night. And the reward is distraction from a difficult emotion, right? It just numbs you out. So now it's time to rule out the second gear, which is to get disenchanted. So next time it happens, you get curious, right? So as you take a bite, you pay attention. Are you actually tasting the ice cream, or are you just eating it on autopilot? Does it actually relieve the stress, or does it just add a layer of guilt on top of the discomfort? Your brain updates. It realizes, hey, this doesn't help as much as it promised. And then the third gear. You find the bigger, better offer. Instead of eating, you get curious about the feeling of craving itself. What does it actually feel like? The reward of curiosity is being present, engaged, and in control. It feels better than autopilot consumption. Now let's take an anxiety habit loop. So the trigger could be a meeting reminder. The behavior is worrying about all the ways the meeting could go wrong. The perceived reward is a temporary sense of control. Your brain thinks worrying is preparing. So again, we'll roll out that second gear and get disenchanted. So you get curious about the worry. Is this mental rehearsal actually helping? Is it solving anything? What does it actually feel like? Tension? Stress? Exhaustion? You discover that the reward is not control, but tension. And then we bring out the third gear, that bigger, better offer, right? So the new reward is curiosity about the thought itself. You notice the anxiety as a physical sensation in your body. Oh, that's interesting, my stomach is tight, right? And then by recognizing it as just a feeling, you step out of the loop and into a state of awareness, which is, again, its own reward. You found a better deal than the exhausting spiral of worry. Now, this isn't just a nice theory. We've tested it in randomized controlled trials, and the results are striking. For instance, in a smoking cessation study, comparing this approach to traditional willpower-based program, the curiosity-based program showed 5 times the abstinence rates at follow-up. In another study on generalized anxiety disorder, app-delivered mindfulness training led to a 67% reduction in anxiety symptoms, and nearly every person who used it benefited. And for eating, participants using curiosity to update the reward value showed a 40% reduction in craving-related eating, not through restriction, but through genuine disenchantment with the old habit. Right? So realize this, right? We're not weak, we're not flawed, we've just been using the wrong strategy. So the science is clear. Willpower is a top-down process fighting a bottom-up system, and it's a losing battle. The brain's architecture is designed to make habits automatic, and no amount of self-flagellation will change that. But by understanding the neuroscience, by mapping your habits, and getting curious about the reward, and finding a bigger, better offer in the experience of awareness itself, you can work with your brain and not against it. So next time you find yourself stuck in a loop, don't say, oh, I gotta stop. Instead, say, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what's happening right now. So it's a small shift, but it's the key to lasting change. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that and you learned something here. And if you did, please like and subscribe and maybe share with someone who might need to hear this. All right, thanks for watching. Bye for now. See you again next time on Reprogramming Mind.